You know that feeling when you pray, and it doesn't feel like words are going up? It feels like they are hitting a brass ceiling and bouncing right back down to the floor. There is a specific kind of silence that comes after a tragedy. It is heavy. It is suffocating. And for a lot of us, that silence is where faith goes to die. I used to think faith was a fortress. I imagined it as this neat, geometric box made of stone. If I just memorized enough verses, if I understood the theology well enough, the walls would hold. I thought that if I built the fortress high enough, the chaos of the world couldn't touch me. But then real life happens. A diagnosis comes back positive. A marriage falls apart. A child doesn't come home, and suddenly that fortress doesn't just crack. It evaporates. You are left standing in the rubble, staring at the sky, asking the only question that matters. Where are you? If you are standing in that rubble right now, feeling like a heretic because you aren't sure anymore, I need you to listen closely, because the church often treats doubt like a virus, something to be quarantined, hidden, or shamed out of existence. We are told to just believe harder, as if faith is a muscle you can flex until the questions go away. But that is not how this works. What if I told you that doubt isn't the exit ramp from your faith? What if it is actually the doorway? Today, we are not going to talk about apologetics or logical arguments. We are going to look at the anatomy of a spiritual breakthrough. We are going to deconstruct the true stories of people who stared into the abyss of total unbelief and found something staring back. Let's talk about Sarah. To understand her doubt, you have to understand who she was before it hit. Sarah was the safe believer. She was the one who made the casseroles. She taught Sunday school for a decade. Her Bible was a tapestry of highlighters and margin notes. She believed in a sovereign, good God who orchestrated the universe like a grand symphony. It made sense. It was orderly. Then chaos broke in. It wasn't a slow fade. It was a violent theft. A rare, aggressive cancer invaded her youngest son's body. The symphony stopped. The prayers, thousands of them, from her church, from strangers, seemed to dissolve into thin air. When her son took his last breath, Sarah's theology didn't just fail her. It felt like it mocked her. The weeks after the funeral were a blur of well-meaning cruelty. People would say things like, "He's in a better place," or "God has a plan." Every time she heard those words, it felt like a physical blow. A plan? This was the plan? To watch her child suffer? If that was God's plan, she didn't want any part of it. She kept going to church, but she was wearing a mask. She would stand during worship, mouth moving, eyes dry, while inside she was screaming accusations at heaven. She felt betrayed, not just by the tragedy, but by God himself. The silence in her house was deafening. It was the presence of an absence. She realized she wasn't just grieving a child, she was grieving her God. He had become a stranger. A monster, even. This went on for a year of walking through a spiritual desert with no water. Finally, she broke. She couldn't fake the good Christian act for one more second. It was a Tuesday afternoon, gray and biting cold. She walked down to the edge of a lake near her house, a place where her son used to throw rocks into the water. The wind was whipping against her face, stinging her skin, matching the storm inside her chest. She stopped walking. She looked up at the low, heavy clouds, and she finally let it out. She didn't pray. She issued an ultimatum. She whispered, "I am done. I cannot do this. I cannot worship a God who allows this. So if you are real, if you are anything like they say you are, this is it. This is the last time I am asking. You have to show me. Not a verse, not a song. You. Show me you, or I am walking away, and I am never looking back." She stood there, shivering, waiting for the lightning bolt, waiting for the voice, waiting for nothing. Just the sound of the water lapping against the stones. But then, in that space of total surrender, something shifted. It wasn't external. The clouds didn't part. It was internal. A sudden, unexplained stillness washed over her nervous system. It was a peace that defied the physics of her grief. And in that stillness, a picture formed in her mind. It wasn't a hallucination. It was a vivid, waking thought that felt dropped in from the outside. She saw a chaotic crowd. A terrified little girl was lost in the middle of it, screaming, panicked, unable to find her way. And she saw a father. He wasn't sitting on a throne watching. He was shoving his way through the crowd. He was frantic. He was pushing barriers aside, ignoring the noise, eyes locked on the child. He wasn't coming to explain why the crowd was there. He was coming to hold her. And Sarah felt it. She physically felt the sensation of being held. The insight dropped into her soul like a heavy weight. I never left you. I was weeping with you. I was right here, in the dirt, in the hospital room, in the silence. I was the father in the crowd. She fell to her knees in the mud. For the first time in 12 months, the tears that came weren't acid. They were water. They were cleansing. The encounter didn't fix the cancer. It didn't bring her son back. But it reframed the universe. She realized she had been asking, "Why did you do this?" when the real truth was, "I am in this with you." She went from knowing about God to knowing God. The doubt burned away the superficial religion and left her with something unshakable. This is the pattern. We see it over and over again. It happens to the intellectual, too. Take Mark. Mark was a biology student, brilliant, analytical. He didn't have a tragedy. He had a data problem. The more he studied evolution and cosmology, the more the Genesis story felt like a fairy tale. He felt like he had to choose, his brain or his soul. He was ready to walk away because he couldn't respect a God that didn't fit his logic. One night, surrounded by textbooks, he wasn't praying for peace. He was wrestling for truth. And the insight hit him. It wasn't a voice. It was a question that popped into his head. Who told you I have to fit inside your understanding? It was a light bulb moment. He realized his doubt was arrogant. He was trying to fit the infinite into a finite box. The breakthrough was realizing that a God small enough to be fully understood wouldn't be big enough to be worshipped. His doubt wasn't solved by an answer. It was solved by a bigger perspective. So how do we do this? If you are in the thick of it right now, how do you move from the silence to the insight? We can pull 3 specific principles from these stories. Principle number 1, the power of the honest scream. Stop being polite with God. Sarah didn't get her breakthrough when she was praying nice prayers. She got it when she got real. The Bible is full of this. David, Jeremiah, Job, they screamed at God. They accused him. They lamented. God is not fragile. He is not offended by your anger. He is not scared of your doubt. The silence you feel? It's often waiting for you to stop pretending. You have to break the seal of politeness. Tell him you're angry. Tell him you're done. That honesty is the only ground where a real relationship can grow. Principle number 2, smash the box. We look for God in very specific places. Church, worship music, the Bible. But when you are in a crisis, those places often feel empty. Sarah found God at a muddy lake. Mark found him in a biology textbook. You have to open your aperture. The divine insight you need might come through a conversation with a stranger, a line in a movie, or a sudden thought while you are driving to work. Stop dictating how God has to speak, and just start listening for anything. Principle number 3, lean into the whisper. This is the hardest one. These encounters, the peace Sarah felt, the thought Mark had, they are subtle. They are whispers. It is so easy to dismiss them. It is so easy to say, "Oh, that was just my imagination," or "that was just a dopamine hit." Faith is the choice to trust the whisper. It is the active decision to say, "No, that was real. That peace was real. That thought was truth." You have to grab onto that insight and anchor your life to it, even when the feelings fade. If you are doubting today, you are not a failure. You are on a journey. The neat little box you used to live in has been crushed, yes, but that means you are now free to step out into the open air. You are free to discover a God who is wilder, closer, and more real than the one you learned about in Sunday school. Do not stop asking. Do not stop wrestling. The silence is not the end. It's the deep breath before the answer. I want to pray for you before we go. God, for the person watching this who feels like they are screaming at a brass ceiling, break through. Validate their pain. Meet them in the mud. Don't give them a cliche. Give them your presence. Turn their doubt into the doorway of a faith that can never be shaken. Amen. If this struck a chord with you, if you have ever found God in a dark place, tell me about it in the comments. Your story might be the lifeline someone else needs to grab onto today. I'll see you in the next one.